Welcome to Varsity. I'm Ryan Aber, joined by Scott Wright. We're here to talk about the Class 6A and 5A playoffs. Scott, let's start with 6A. No real big upsets last week, but we've got a lot of close matchups this week. The first one is a game you're going to be at Jinx at Edmond Santa Fe. The Trojans go on the road for the first time in a while in the second round.
Yeah, it looks to be a really exciting week in the 6A playoffs this week. You look at a lot of the games that are going on. Obviously, that Santa Fe Jinx game being the big one, in my opinion. Santa Fe really at least started to get themselves on the map with that preseason scrimmage victory at Jinx that really got the Wolves fired up, and it carried over into the season, and they went from a 1-9 to a now 10-1 season. And so obviously a heck of a start for the Wolves as we get going. Looking at Jinx, obviously this is the time of the year when they excel. Them in Union, the last 15 years, they've been the ones coming out on top. So you know that it's going to be a tough game. Obviously, being on the road for Jinx will affect that. But I think that Santa Fe might have what it takes to pull this one off this week.
The thing I'm most looking forward to in this is Jinx's running game. Alex Ross has a possibility coming back after cracking a collarbone. He's been out for part of the earlier part of the season with an ankle injury. But Trevin Berry has been so good for them, replacing Ross. How does that affect their offense when Ross comes back? Does it make them better, or does it throw them their offense out of kilter a little bit? It
could go either way. It really could. When you add a 6'1", 215-pound running back to the mix, it's never a bad thing. However, you don't know. This team has been, early on he was dealing with an ankle injury. Alex Ross was, so he was in and out of the lineup. Now he's been out for a significant period of time. They've really kind of gotten into a rhythm since that point with Trayvon back there. So you don't know what will happen if Ross is able to play, and it's at least sounding like there's a decent chance that he will. So you don't know what that's going to do to that offense. It could be something that actually works out into Santa Fe's favor, even though he is one of the best running backs in the state.
And who's your pick in this one?
You know, I feel like I need the little wolf head here next to me. Go Lee Corso, just put it on. But I'm going with Edmond Santa Fe in this ball game. I think that they are really going to exert themselves and put themselves up on that pedestal and show that they are one of the teams that can compete with the best on the east side. They've got a lot of talent. Justice Hansen at quarterback seems to be playing really well right now. I think they pull this one off. Not to be a downer, but I do not see them getting past Union the next week. That's my pick to win 6A this year. But I'm going with the Wolves.
And I'm going to go the other way. I think Jinx just has too much experience at this stage of the game. They've been playing better week after week after week, even with Alex Ross out. I think, honestly, Santa Fe's chances are a little bit better if Alex Ross is back in the lineup. I think that would throw their offense off a little bit. But I think Edmond Santa Fe is a much, much better team than they were last year or even earlier this year when they got beat by Midwest City at the last non-district game. But I think Jinx is a little too much for him now. Edmond Santa Fe is going to be a power in the future, but this one is for the Trojans.
And quickly, you've been following Midwest City really closely. A big game with them at the Wasso. Midwest City defensive backfield against guys like Keon Hatcher, a really interesting matchup there.
Yeah, I think I'm really looking forward to this matchup. Guys like Ricky Reeves and Ronnie Davis in the Midwest City defensive backfield matching up against the receivers that Owasso throws out there. Owasso also has a little bit of an X factor with a tight end, Matt Gallagher, who's been a phenomenal addition to their offense. Midwest City's offense had some problems last week getting started. James Flanders put up huge numbers in the end, but it was a couple of big runs surrounded by a lot of 3 and less yard carries. And it's going to be interesting to see if they get in an offensive flow in this one.
And as we take a look at 5A, a couple of interesting matchups in that one as well. What really piques your interest in the 5A bracket?
I think what I look at is how the bottom half of this bracket opened up. We thought it was open when Carl Albert was moved up to the number 1 spot when Guthrie was out of the playoffs. But Carl Albert jumps back down when Guthrie gets put back in, and they lose in the first round. All of a sudden, you've got Ardmore and Pryor down there in that bottom half of the bracket, and I think Lawton MacArthur is the biggest beneficiary of this. They've got Tulsa Kelly this week, and that's going to be a really tough game. Tulsa Kelly, especially defensively, is very good and going to give the Highlanders some matchup issues. But if they get past this, I think Ardmore and Pryor are good teams. they're not state championship quality teams. And I think that Lawton Mack goes through there, whereas before they had some problems with Carl Albert in the past, and it really opens up for them. Another game that I'm really looking forward to this is Guthrie at Tulsa East Central. Two of what we thought were probably the 3 or 4 best teams in 5A before the season, and they're meeting this second round. How do you see that one shaking out?
It's so interesting because of everything that Guthrie's been through. They obviously responded really well with that first round win. Tulsa East Central, a team that's been a little bit up and down, dealt with some injuries, a lot of Division I talent on that squad right there. So two teams that have kind of been through the ringer a lot this year. So you don't expect any adversity to cause a problem for them at this point. So it basically comes down to execution and making plays. I think that Guthrie probably pulls this one out, but I've said all along that I think Lawton Mack is a team to beat in 5A, so I'm sticking with them as my championship pick. But I do think Guthrie wins this week.
Well, I picked Carl Albert to win the championship, but I'm going to shift that pick to Lawton Mack because they've been so good this season, and I think that this game is just one of those things that's going to wear down both these teams. I think Rafe Watkins, who's not going to be coaching this game, is going to be in the stands, but the coaching matchup between Rafe Watkins and Travis Hill would be a couple of the best coaches in Class 5A. I think Guthrie gets through this one, especially at home, but I look for Mack now to win the 5A championship. Scott, thanks for joining us, and thank you. Check us out every day at newsok.com/varsity for the best high school coverage anywhere.